and gentlemen, welcome back to Tech Showdown. My name is Kevin, this is my adorable co-host Teddy, and today I've got something quite interesting for you. It's a gaming computer, the MSI Vortex G65. So this thing, as you can see, is quite crazy. It's packing two full-size GTX 980s, not 980Ms, 980s, and a i7 6700 HQ processor in this really small sort of cylindrical package. It's not too heavy either, that's why I'm able to hold it up here. So this is quite interesting. I've been putting it through its paces, so let's jump into the review. First, let's talk about the exterior and I/O. So exterior-wise, it does look kind of similar to the Mac Pro, but not nearly as much of a trash can, given that it doesn't have that big cutout in the top like the Mac Pro does. But yeah, still kind of similar in design. Dimensions-wise, it's coming in at about 26.6 centimeters tall, and it's coming in at about 4 kilograms, which is why I'm able to hold it up here for you. So that's quite cool. It's also got the intake in the bottom and the exhaust in the top, just like the Mac Pro. So yeah, quite high specs, all packed into a really small package. I really like that. It's going to be much easier to move around than, say, a normal desktop rig, so that's really cool. And especially if you're going to be like shipping it overseas or anything like that, it's going to be much easier. So now let's look around at I/O and see what it's packing. So we see up the top there, we have a SPDIF, mic in and headphone out. Then we see 4 USB 3.0 ports, 2 HDMI 1.4 ports, not 2.0, 1.4, so it's a little bit disappointed there. 2 gigabit Ethernet ports, then down the bottom you see 2 mini display ports. Alongside that we have some Thunderbolt type C ports, which is quite good to see, and way down the bottom there you have the input for your power supply. So that's quite cool. It's pretty stacked with I/O. That's going to be enough to get you by, I think, and yeah, really good. I would have liked HDMI 2.0, but hey, you know, we can settle with HDMI 1.4. So specs wise, the Vortex is absolutely packed to the brim. So yeah, looking really good there with the Intel 6700K Skylake CPU, and of course being paired with a Z170 motherboard with 32 gigs of RAM. Those dual GTX 980s, and that is 8 gigabytes per card. No, it's not added together, it's 8 gigabytes per card. So that's really good. Also coming with decent storage there and good communications, and a 450 watt power supply, which just shows Maxwell's efficiency on those GPUs, because honestly, a lot of people think if you're running dual, 980s with an i7 processor, you're going to need like a 750 watt power supply to power it, and it's just simply not the case. So yeah, really good specs packed into a really small computer. Now with all that being said, let's jump into the benchmarks and see how it actually performs. So the performance is absolutely insane, as you saw. This thing would be super duper overkill for 1080p unless you are running, say, a high refresh rate monitor. But for 1440p, it's going to do extremely well. And at 4K, as we saw, it's getting over 30 FPS in most things. So it's going to be good for the gamers out there that want to be doing 4K, and those are all maxed out at over 30 FPS. However, if you're wanting to do 4K at above 60 FPS, you're probably going to need to turn down some of the filters and things like that, and that should bump you up to over 60 FPS. But yeah, performance is absolutely insane on this guy. It is really, really, really powerful. Which brings us now to heat and noise. So if you watch any of my laptop reviews, you'll know I have my laptop triangle, and you get to pick two sides to the triangle. So one side is performance, another side is heat and noise, and the last side is size. So you get to pick two. So say you want good performance and good heat and noise, then the laptop will usually lack in size in terms of it'll be very big and usually quite bulky. Say you want good size and good performance, then it will usually lack in heat and noise. It'll be, run very hot, and it'll also be very noisy. And that's where this guy falls into for sure. Now, Linus said in his review, and I quote, "The tower emits an unobtrusive low hum even while gaming." Now, he couldn't possibly be more wrong. I don't know if he didn't even test it or if something else happened, because I watched his review before I even started testing this just to see what he made of it, and as soon as I started gaming with it and benching it, I could hear it from my lounge. It is very, very loud. Now obviously I can just say those things and say that is my opinion, but as always I'll let you guys judge for yourself. So this is what the MSI Vortex G65 sounds like during the Unigen Heaven benchmark. So you can see for yourself there, it's coming in at about 65 decibels, which is along the lines of something like a reference R9 It is actually very, very high. Now, temperatures wise, it does do a pretty decent job for something of this size. However, again, it wasn't as good as Linus said in his review. And I don't know if someone's been using it between when he did the review and when I did my testing on it, but a lot of the benchmarks that are already pre-installed on the system had all their settings at like a medium setting. So that might be why he got the numbers he did, because the benchmarks weren't maxed out. However, I do not know that for sure, so, it could just be something that MSI might have done for a show event. Now, in the Unigen Valley benchmark, checking out the GPUs on it, the highest I saw them go was 85 degrees Celsius. Now, that's not exactly bad. That's fine. That's sort of like what a reference 980 will do. About that much, so that's just fine. They're not going to be running into any trouble there. However, it is higher than what Linus said in his review. And also looking at that CPU, how did that do? So in the Intel Extreme Tuning Utility, the benchmark within that software, it went up to 94 degrees Celsius. So that's getting pretty up there. Again, there was no throttling, so that's really good, but it did go quite high in that benchmark. So it is something to consider, that obviously with its small size, it does get quite hot and it does get quite noisy. It's just one of those things you really aren't able to avoid when it comes to PC gaming. As I said, the laptops fall into the same thing with the laptop triangle. You get to pick two, you don't get to get all three, as far as I've seen so far. So just something to take into consideration when thinking about buying the MSI Vortex. Which brings us now to the conclusion, and so we have to talk about the cost. So this is going to be coming in at $4,000 US, so it's going to be very, very costly. Now I can understand why they set it to that price, because I think they're wanting it to compete with the Mac Pro, which is obscenely overpriced. However, I'm not really sure they can justify it the same way. The Mac Pro is set up as more of a workstation, so people are willing to spend a lot more on a workstation PC just because of the nature of what they'll be doing with it, for productivity reasons and things like that. Whereas this is more purely set up for gaming. So I think it's going to be a little bit harder for people to justify spending that much. However, I still think it's extremely unique. It's very cool. It's got a lot of things going for it, that's for sure. But that price is quite high. So I think it's just going to appeal to those people out there that aren't looking for something that's insanely good value for money. They're just looking for something unique they're looking for an extremely powerful gaming PC in a really small package. And I think for that, it's going to do them really well. I would just say make sure that you're fine with the fact that it will run quite loud and it will run quite hot, which a lot of small gaming PCs do these days anyway, but it is just something to keep in the back of your mind. But aside from that, yeah, it's insanely powerful. It's really cool, and it is going to be extremely unique. Now, I thank you all for watching this video. Please subscribe to Tech Showdown if you haven't already, and like the video. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.